in my job with the developer advocate, I use Orbs day in, day out when I can in my demos, because the problems that Orbs solve are generally things that, like Kyle was saying, you know, if you have a piece of software, let's say you're running maybe some Selenium tests on your Node.js application, right? Or you're deploying artifacts to S3, an S3 bucket. In the configuration YAML, since YAML is a data structure, and it's not a programming language, you really can't figure out ways to reuse you know, calls within the data structure. So there is no encapsulation or like object-oriented programming type thing within YAML. So what we've done at Circle CI is outfitted the backend system to be able to take in parameterized YAML, right? And when you have that, now you get that reusability and everything's kind of encapsulated, right? So, and it also helps you with maintaining the code. I actually have a talk that I gave a few times already, but it's called CI/CD agility and avoiding pipeline sprawl. And that's where I talk about, you know, how YAML is a great kind of declarative language or syntax for data structures, but it's not great at being able to, since it is a data structure, it's not great at, you know, being able to perform logic in it, right? And it doesn't give you that parameterization or template that you could use in the system and reuse the little bits. Otherwise, you know, with YAML, you're constantly cutting and pasting. Now with Orbs, again, we've outfitted the platform. We saw the need to help our users solve these sprawl problems, right? And the high volume of syntax that are in these YAML files or the configuration files for the pipelines. So Kyle, can you talk about a little bit about, like, maybe what are some of the highest used Orbs that Circle CI has, right, in the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure 100% off the top of my head that the Slack Orb is by far our most used Orb. It's actually, I think, our first Orb too. Kind of fun story about that is before I was on this team building Orbs, I was our senior support engineer. And right when this project Orbs was coming out, Circle CI, we asked a whole bunch of employees, can anyone basically figure out how to use this new product that we're coming out with? And so I did build the Slack Orb back then, and it still exists today as one of our most used Orbs. I don't know that I want to go into the source of this one right now. I think we have some cleaner Orbs, some easier Orbs to go over, but just to give an idea of like what's possible. On the Orb Registry, you can search for any of your Orbs. I think most people on this call are mostly familiar with that, but for anyone who's not, search whatever Orb you want. So Slack shows up here. You can see that the current version of this Orb is 3.4.2. Every Orb page comes with some getting started information, basically how to import that Orb. And then every Orb has some actions that can be taken in the form of commands, or sometimes they have full jobs that you can just drop into your workflow. So the most used command here is notify, which really is just a simple parameterized command that allows you to send a message to a Slack channel very easily. And this is all done under the hood. We'll take a look at the source of how it's actually created in a little bit. But this is all done under the hood using curl requests and bash and a whole bunch of stuff, just using these parameters here so that you can send any message you want off in your pipeline whenever you want. So if you have a deployment that goes off and you want to get notified in a certain channel about that, this is a great way to do that. And the whole point here being mostly, I think in this talk, is not what you can do with this particular Slack orb, but really to get a sense of what's possible so that if you wanted to, you can open a PR on the Slack orb as it is now, or you can make your own orb or anything like that. If you think it'd be a good opportunity to take a look at the node orb, which is one of our higher used ones, not nearly as high as Slack, but also we just updated this one. It's really well written at the moment, really good idea of how you might use an orb. So let's just skip right into the usage examples and take a look at running node tests. So what we've done is there's actually just a test job. which will automatically download your source code. It will install your NPM modules. It will cache those NPM modules and then run some test command, which by default is actually just NPM run tests. So you can see here, here's like an example of how you could do a node application that deploys to Heroku. So if you import two orbs here, the Heroku orb and the node orb, you have a workflow called test and deploy. Very, very simple. This node orb provides the test job, which does everything I just mentioned earlier. And then assuming this passed, you could use the Heroku orb. The Heroku orb has a command called deploy via git, or excuse me, a job called deploy via git. And in this case, we can see this is all standard Circle CI stuff. We're applying a filter for master, so we'll only deploy on master. And we're saying it requires tests, which means that no test needs to run first. So in this 15 lines right here, you can have a pretty successful build, test, deploy for a Node.js project on Heroku just by using these two orbs. So it's a really, really easy way for users to kind of get started, whether you're a user who is a user of Node or Heroku, or you're kind of looking for examples of how to build orbs, either for personal use or if you have your own product that you're looking to share with people. This is a really good way to get them started with that.